When Daniel bought his house in this quiet suburban neighborhood, he thought he'd found peace. Clean lawns, neat mailboxes, friendly neighbors, the perfect picture. But what he didn't know was that the HOA treated grass like a crime scene. It started innocently enough, a notice about his lawn being too tall after a week of rain, half an inch too high, according to their letter. Daniel mowed it, shrugged, and moved on. Then came the fine, $200. He was shocked. He'd already cut the lawn twice. Over the next few weeks, the violations kept piling up. His lawn was too uneven, too patchy, too discolored. Every little thing became a reason to fine him. And what made it worse? Some neighbors had drier, patchier lawns than him, but somehow Daniel's yard was under a microscope. He paid the fines, gritting his teeth, but the frustration grew. It felt personal. Every letter, every citation, every penny of a fine was like the HOA trying to prove they had absolute control. But Daniel wasn't the type to let petty rules ruin his life. Something had to change, and he wasn't going to fight them the usual way, WY midsummer. Daniel realized the issue wasn't really his grass. It was control. The HOA sent letters with military precision, citing every tiny clause they could find. But Daniel decided to stop reacting emotionally. Instead, he read every line of the HOA handbook, every obscure amendment buried in the appendix. Most residents ignored it, but Daniel treated it like a puzzle. And then he found it, a loophole. Buried in the landscaping section was a clause about environmentally conscious yards. It allowed homeowners to create native plant zones, pollinator gardens, and certified wildlife habitats. Properties with these certifications could follow different landscaping rules, rules that completely bypassed the HOA's rigid grass height restrictions. Daniel's mind raced. If they wanted to micromanage his lawn, he would give them something impossible to argue with. Over the next few weeks, he stopped mowing large sections of his yard. But this wasn't chaos. It was strategy. He researched native grasses, wildflowers, pollinator plants, and local wildlife needs. He planted flowers, added a small water basin for birds, and carefully mapped out areas to attract butterflies and bees. Neighbors noticed. Some looked confused. Others were intrigued. His once problematic yard now looked like a curated, thriving ecosystem. Then came another violation letter. The HOA claimed his lawn was now too wild. But Daniel didn't argue. Instead, he submitted paperwork. He applied for official wildlife habitat certification, documenting every plant, every bird bath, every pollinator-friendly area. Weeks later, the certification came through. Official, recognized, and completely legitimate. Daniel submitted it to the HOA and requested that his yard be reclassified under the Environmental Landscaping Clause. The board was silent at first, but as his yard grew taller, fuller, and more vibrant, their problem became impossible to ignore. Suddenly, Daniel's once criticized property was the most unique, beautiful yard in the neighborhood. Finally, the HOA responded. Their official letter confirmed it. Daniel's property qualified as a certified wildlife habitat. The fines? Gone. The letters? Stopped. The board hadn't expected it. A loophole in their own rules had undone months of control. And it didn't stop there. Neighbors, inspired by Daniel's yard, began introducing native plant sections of their own. Pollinator gardens appeared. Flower beds replaced turf strips. Even small water features popped up in front yards. The once strict HOA found itself facing a new reality. Uniformity was no longer possible. Residents were reading the rulebook, questioning fines, and demanding transparency. Enforcement had to follow the rules, or risk being challenged. Daniel watched quietly as the neighborhood transformed. His yard thrived with birds, butterflies, and lush native plants. What started as a tactical response to petty fines had turned into a living, breathing wildlife sanctuary, and a lesson in knowing the rules better than anyone enforcing them. By spring, his wildlife habitat sign stood proudly by the walkway. The grass. Wild, beautiful, untouchable by the HOA. The board eventually rotated out. New members inherited a community that had learned its power and the limits of HOA authority. It all began with a $200 fine over half an inch of grass. But the lesson? Sometimes the best revenge isn't breaking the rules. It's following them smarter than anyone else.